And then this picture popped into my head. I have three kids. I have two boys and a girl. And suddenly I could just see them sitting together and saying, well, what did mom think was going to happen? And that cut deeper than anything I'd been saying to myself. And I
Mm,
realized that I wasn't just about to give up on a business. I was about to give up on the woman I knew I could become.
mm,
And that's when I actually started paying attention. And I realized that what I was looking at was other women who were very much like me, multi talented women who had something to share, something to say, to help others, a way to serve other people.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Wynn, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Kevin, and today we're joined by Rohanna Doylida. She is the founder of The Whole Mentorship, been in the coaching space for 2+ years. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
Yeah. You know, I always like to start off with the origin story of a coach, right? Because you could have been so many things. You could have been a yoga teacher. You could have been I don't know, professional pool player, maybe. But out of all the things you chose and did, you chose coaching. And not only that, you chose to turn it into a business. So, kind of curious, how did you end up here? What made you want to become a coach and turn it into a business?
So it's a long story, and it's actually part of what I do
Mm,
because I started as an actress on the Chicago stages. I spent 10 years performing for thousands of people, doing, comedy, drama, musicals, you name it. And I thought that was my forever home.
mm,
I felt alive on stage. But then life threw me a curveball, and my youngest son was diagnosed with celiac disease. And this
oh,
is way back in 2003 when nobody had ever heard those words before. Now it's really trendy and you can get stuff everywhere, but back then there was nothing. And his birthday was coming up and I couldn't find a birthday cake.
mm,
And I realized that if I was in that situation, then other parents were too. So I did something I never planned to do. And I opened a business. I opened a gluten and dairy free bakery. I knew nothing about baking, certainly gluten free baking. I had to learn everything. I had no business plan. I had to learn marketing, advertising, labeling, create recipes, learn to decorate. I mean, everything I had to figure out. And I did it. I did it because I needed to. The recession of 2008 closed us down. And for the first time in my life, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I wrote a book about celiac disease. I bounced around doing just different jobs. I ran a health club. I did retail. I did all these different things. And through all of it, I had been caring for my mom who had cancer.
wow.
And in 2017, my mom lost her battle with cancer.
Mm,
And the ground just disappeared from underneath me. I was utterly devastated and had no idea what to do with my life. And
mm,
I needed to find something that was grounding and something that was meaningful. And I stumbled into teaching. I quite literally stumbled into teaching. I went back to school, and I have been a teacher, and I've been an early education teacher. So I teach very, very young children. I teach them foundational skills, and they teach me everything. They teach me about resilience. They teach me about the patience required for learning. Little kids They fall down, they cry, they get up, and they move right on. It doesn't mean anything to them. They don't make that about their whole life, about a failure, like like people do, like women in particular do.
Mm.
And so I really was very, very, very happy teaching. But every 10 years, I seem to need something new. My brain seems to need a new challenge. And I found myself really searching for a new challenge, and I stumbled into digital marketing. I invested in a coach. I I started, I started trying to make it work, and it flopped utterly and
Mm.
completely. I was a complete failure.
How would you define failure in that case?
There was nobody watching any of my videos. There was no one purchasing things that I was doing affiliate marketing. Nothing, just crickets. And I thought, okay, all of the things that I've done my whole life, that I've used up my chances. I've used up, all of my opportunities. And this one particular night, I'm doom scrolling, on Facebook and self-medicating with ice cream, right? And and I just I just thought, okay, that's it. I'm done. And then this picture popped into my head. I have three kids. I have two boys and a girl. And suddenly I could just see them sitting together and saying, well, what did mom think was going to happen? And that cut deeper than anything I'd been saying to myself. And I realized that I wasn't just about to give up on a business. I was about to give up on the woman I knew I could become.
Mm.
And that's when I actually started paying attention. And I realized that what I was looking at was other women who were very much like me, multi talented women who had something to share, something to say, to help others, a way to serve other people. And it just clicked. I invested in a new coaching system from a new coach for myself. I got really clear on who it is that I'm here to serve. And I created the Wisdom Bridge method. And the Wisdom Bridge is that we carry everything that we have lived, learned, and survived across the bridge to what we want to do next. We start to see all our past, all those pivots as proof of our knowledge, proof of our skills, not not random baggage. And once we get that, we speak differently, we stand differently, and we trust ourselves again. I speak to women who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they're standing in that in between space. They're no longer who they were, but they're not yet sure who they're becoming. And what I do is I help them see that their past isn't something to escape, it's the foundation for their next chapter. Not a
Mm.
liability, it's the greatest source of credibility. Reinvention is never about starting over. Reinvention is always about carrying everything you have lived and survived across that bridge and realizing that all of that was preparing you for this. When I look back on all my chapters, the acting, the baking, the teaching, even the caregiving, everything felt disconnected at the time. But actually, each one was preparing me to do exactly what I do now. Because reinvention
Mm.
isn't about becoming someone new, it's about bringing all of yourself forward.
Mm.
And that's who I am.
So many thoughts here. It reminds me of this book I read. It's called Second Mountain, right? And it's about like going this traditional. Maybe the first mountain was, I don't know, the goals that other people told you to do. Like for me, it was to do pharmacy back in the day, right? But it was never really my true calling. But when that era ended, I had to find the second mountain, and I really relate to what you were saying as well. Now, what's really interesting is like, man, what you're speaking about is so deep. And so one of the things I think about is like you're now running this business. How do people typically like find out about your work? How do they find you? Like, what does the marketing aspect of your business kind of look like?
A lot of it is social media. I have a very strong social media presence, primarily using Facebook because the women that I'm talking to very much are on Facebook, but also Instagram and LinkedIn. I connect with a lot of people, a lot of other coaches, particularly on LinkedIn. And then 2025 was the most amazing year. I really wanted to start getting a message out to more people more broadly. And I started doing podcasts. That was the goal. And I have done so many podcasts. They are amazing. It's just this wonderful platform just to be able to have conversations
Mm,
and to share, and it just reaches so many more people. So a lot of people find me through that. And then also, I don't know if you know about giveaways and being, yeah, and being part of giveaways, having something, having a free gift that people
mm.
can download is really advantageous in growing your uh, in growing your email list and in more people seeing you. So a lot of visibility. And that's what it's
Yeah.
been with you. That's what it's been so far.
Yeah, that's really interesting that Facebook is your primary channel and whatnot as well. That's really cool. So I'm sure people are like, Ro, like, I'm finding out about you. I really relate to, I'm a woman. I really relate to kind of finding this maybe next chapter of my life. Like, what does a coaching engagement look like for you? Like, what do your offerings look like? Are they primarily, it sounds like it's primarily one on one, but I don't know. Please tell me, like, what does a offering look like?
Yes. So I call it finding your true voice. So as we begin finding your true voice, we begin with the wisdom bridge. That's always the first step. So the first step with me is delving into your past and into what you're passionate about. And there's lots of tools and steps involved in that. And then there's lots of techniques to help uncover it. And then once we've done that, because usually people sign up for a package with me, it can be, learning the essentials with me, which is 3 months, or it can be, a full personal branding, package, which is about 6 months. It's a weekly session and it's really one on one because that relationship is so valuable. That mentor mentee relationship is always a two-way street. You always learn from the person that you are mentoring. And so everything I do is really, really, really very specifically tailored to the person and their needs. I have a program set up, but I completely tailor it to what their unique journey is. I mean, I had one lady who was who now was going into real estate, and we created an entire real estate social marketing campaign, that really highlighted who she was and why she was doing it.
Mm,
She's doing great. Um, so that's really a big part of what I do is that one-on-one part. I'm also
mm,
though actually developing right now a course with another woman, and she does a lot of body work. And it's called the Brand and Body Blueprint. And we're hoping to start beta testing it next month in January and kicking that
mm,
off. And that'll be more of a group program.
mm. That's really interesting. Yeah, I see that somatic work is becoming a lot more accepted. Before it was kind of like very, very woo wooey, but now
Ooh,
it's
yeah.
I think yeah. But something I'm very curious about.
Yeah.
You said that you're partnering up on this program, right? What
Mhm.
led to that decision? Why not like yeah, like what led you to partner up with someone versus like kind of launching maybe another solo project and stuff? I'm kind of curious there.
She's someone that I really respect
Mm,
in terms of her work and what she does.
hmm
We discovered very quickly, we set up a call just to meet each other and
mm,
discovered, and I was driving. I wasn't even like sitting at my desk and talking. I was busy driving.
Yeah.
But we just found that we clicked really, really quickly. And we had a lot of very similar thoughts. Being an entrepreneur, being a solo entrepreneur is a very lonely journey. And it is a very, very, um, I was actually thinking about this last week. You know, a single mom with three kids, full-time job, and she's going to law school at night. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
how is she doing all of this? And I think it's because it's finite.
mm,
Each class, each quarter, semester, each goal it has a beginning, a middle, and an ending. But when you're an entrepreneur, there's no ending.
yep.
And you have to be the one who is creating your systems. You have to be creating the automations that are going to allow you to work. You have to be creating every bit of this and you have to be motivating it to happen. And it's very easy to burn out. So many people get discouraged. So many people will stop. And
Mm,
you don't even know. You could be really on the brink of it taking off. How do you know
mm,
if you've quit? And so what we found we wanted to do together, her name is Lydia Christensen. What Lydia and I discovered is that by doing that somatic work along with my wisdom bridge work, it's more sustainable.
mm,
You can find it in your body and in your soul and in your breath and in your mind, in your emotions. They can all work for you. So when you come up to stuck points, which we all do, there's it's not a matter of if, it's always when. We're doing something new, we are moving outside our comfort zone, and there's going to be stuck points. And how do you move past them? And that's where a lot of people don't. A lot of people never actually get past needing to reach out to new people. I wanted to learn about doing podcasts and being on podcasts and being in front of a larger audience. That was really scary to start doing, but I wanted it, and so I did a lot of research and I came up with a
mm.
strategy that I began to implement just this past summer, and and got going on it. But it's hard to do that on your own. It can be really hard to be self-motivating, and that's what a coach is for. That's really what a coach does is they hold that space for you until you can step into it, until you believe it and can embody it. Your coach is holding it for you. Make
You
sense?
said some real, you said some really interesting things, right? And it led me to think about like, oh yeah, what the, you know, we do oftentimes we do this for our clients, hold space, right?
Mhm.
But very rarely do people kind of hold space for the actual coach. And so another area where I notice after doing this podcast many, many times where people feel lonely or where it might feel scary or where people might feel stuck or all by themselves is
Mhm.
actually kind of pricing. And I would love your advice on this, right? So a lot of coaches they struggle with like, oh, what do I charge? How do I package this? How do I come up with that initial number? And of course, Ro, you don't have to give it any hard numbers, but how do you kind of think about like pricing and structure today? Whether that's like I think you said packages, but are there any key lessons that you kind of learned that shape that perspective for yourself?
There really are. You know, everybody's, I haven't met anybody who is comfortable just coming out and saying, okay, this is what I charge and this is what, so want to get started? I don't think we do, the kind of people who do this tend to be givers and tend to just want to keep giving. And so we do, right? We give it away for free. We give away the store. We say, well, that's okay. Here, just pay this much and we're good. And we all start off doing that and getting testimonials, which is really, really valuable. The thing that gets in the way is imposter syndrome. It's not believing in yourself and not believing in your own credibility. Because you're doing something that is new to you, you don't believe people are really going to want to pay for it. And that's where the wisdom bridge work is so valuable, because you start to see yourself as credible. And you start to realize all the credibility that you actually bring to the table and your unique perspective that you bring to the table. And once you've got those solid, then you're willing to change your pricing. You're willing to give yourself a raise because you understand that what you have is valuable. And the other thing that really got to me, as I was battling my own way through all of this, was, I took the opportunity to invest in myself several times. And I learned different things through different coaching programs. And but I had the opportunity, and it wasn't always easy to find the money, but I did it. And it increased my belief in myself. It increased my skills. It increased my sense of self-worth, all of that. And if you don't offer what you do to someone with credibility, with a price on it, then you're actually denying them the opportunity to invest in themselves and to learn what you know, what you have to teach them. And I think that's been hugely helpful for me in terms of what my prices are and how I approach it. I want people to get that help. I want them to grow. I want them to have the confidence, and I want them to learn what I have to teach. And that does mean investing in it.
Yeah. I do think too, another lesson that I personally learned as well is like sustainability. Like we think about, if we look at any, like, I don't know, the environment or anything like that, there's this little ecosystem a lot of times going on. And I realize like being a giver, right? And by over giving so much, it's actually not sustainable in the long run, which is why we burn out, we hold resentment, we crash out, we want to burn the business down.
Yeah.
And so it kind of dawned on me that like, oh yeah, if I don't charge what I'm giving into the world, like it's actually not sustainable for me. And by letting my fear of charging what, I'm going to throw this in quotations because it's subjective, but worth, right?
Yeah.
By not charging what I'm worth or a proportion to the value that I'm giving, it's actually quite selfish because that other person doesn't value it at the same time. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love like Costco free samples, but do I value it versus like a purchase that I just made like at Costco?
No.
No.
You don't. I mean, it's really true. And that burnout is so real. And that's it's a stuck point, right? That being afraid to just come out and say it, that's a real stuck point. And you're right. If you can't make a living from doing it, it's not sustainable and it feels terrible. You feel awful. You feel like you've wasted your time. You feel like you failed, when really what you've needed is just help over that next hurdle.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I feel like that next hack, like the hack a lot of times for givers, is just like making your first hire as soon as possible. Because now it's not only dependent on you, you're supporting that person who is under you, who loves doing this stuff that you hate. And then you start really seeing this things that are full circle, like, oh yeah, this is really actually an ecosystem, even though it's just one other person and maybe they're even part-time or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
fueling their joy. They love doing these things that I don't really love doing. And now we have to charge because if we don't, we can't keep this machine going and all that as well. So
It's
yeah.
absolutely true. It's really
Yeah.
so true to have someone who is dependent on you, whether it's, a family that you're trying to support, whether it is people that you've hired. It's this, like you said, you've got to, it's not a hobby anymore. It's a business. And
Yeah.
that's a different mindset. That's a really different mindset.
Yeah. And like the huge thing, and then we'll move on to the next topic, is like it's a symbiotic relationship between you and your coaching client, you and your staff or your team, you know. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was just a huge paradigm shift personally for myself, that as we're having this conversation, you know. So thank you for bringing it out of me. Okay,
Okay.
let's move on to the next topic. I want to know more about you because we're coming near time of this shooting. We're coming near the end of the year,
Mhm.
and so I'm kind of curious. Like, you started this business, what you said 2 years ago? Was that right?
Yeah.
You said you
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So where do you want this business to take you in the next few years? Do you have desires to scale? Do you want to hire more? Do you have
Oh my
secret
gosh,
plans
are
or
you
ambitions no
kidding?
one knows
Yeah,
about?
yes,
Yeah.
100%. Like I said, this 2025 was very much about really, I created the Wisdom Bridge. I realized who the women are that I'm serving, those second career women. And I began doing all these podcasts. I have, I think, four more scheduled at this point in January.
Nice.
But where I want to go is speaking events. I've done a bit, but I really want to start being on more stages, live speaking events, whether they're in person or virtual doesn't matter to me, but paid speaking events, so that I can really get my message out further. And then I need to write a book about the Wisdom Bridge. I've I've got so much of it already written, so that's part of this year. And then getting that course off the ground is going to happen this year too. So, and of course, and then I've got my own clients, my own one-on-one personal clients. So it is going to be hiring more people because it is not sustainable to do all on your own. And then it's really going to be setting my own time agenda, making choices that really move myself forward, and being there for my family,
Mm.
being there I became a grandma.
No
So,
way.
yeah. So it's been so
Congrats.
fun. So, yeah, it was a big year. It was a really big year. So, yeah, so that's where I want to go. I want this business to be at least seven figures. And I think that I see the road ahead.
Mm.
I see it. So it's just, and I'm setting up the strategies to go there.
Yeah.
So that is my plan for this next year.
So you got the you're thinking you want to do more speaking gig or speaking events, write a book, get the course off the ground, service more one-on-one clients, hire people.
Hmm.
The question I have for you is like, in this season of business right now, I can tell it's very, very exciting. But are you also like, and also like on Instagram and all these social media platforms, it's really easy to see the highlight reels, right? Of business going very, very well sometimes. But I always like to ask too, kind of like I'm really into shadow work and stuff. And so I'm kind of curious, like, what are some growing pains that you're noticing right now as well? Like, is there anything unexpected popping up for you?
Well, honestly, this year brought, like I said, lots of joy, but it actually brought one of the worst sorrows that I've experienced. My best friend of over 30 years died very suddenly on November 6th.
Mm. Oh, wow.
And
Sorry.
thank you. And it knocked the wind out of my sails. It made everything else unimportant. And figuring out how to continue working. And it's all self motivated work, right? This is being a solo entrepreneur means that you are the driving force. So, how do you do that when your tank is empty? How do you do that when feel you don't feel it? That harkens all the way back to my acting days, because
Mm.
there are days you don't feel like going on stage. There are days you're tired or you're sick and you don't feel like doing it, but it's your job. And there are people who have paid to come and see you do your job. And so how do you move through it and do your job? And that's been this past month. That has been really a challenge to
Mm.
balance self care with forward momentum. And that's, and life happens. Things come up, and you have to be able to sustain what you're doing. Like you said, for the ecosystem, it's not just you.
Mm.
Hmm.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about your best friend passing away.
Thank
And
you.
uh, I can't imagine what you kind of went through back in November. And even now, like
Mm.
it's November wasn't that long ago.
Long ago.
I'm also really curious though, too. After going through what you're going through and maybe still going through what you're going through, and you mentioned that you are a solopreneur right now, was there ever an identity shift of like, oh wow, maybe I need to like expand beyond myself and like create an ecosystem? Did that thought ever cross your mind, or
Actually,
do you enjoy? Did this moment kind of make you like, hey, I actually really enjoy like being really hands on as a solopreneur? Like, I'm kind of curious if there was an identity shift for you at all.
the first one has really been on my mind for the past couple months. You know, I get very excited about a new project and something I'm ready to do and something I want to create, and then
Mhm.
find that I don't have the time. I can't, when you're one person, there's only so much you can do
Mm.
without, as we said, and you can set up automations, you can set up systems, you put strategies in place, but without having more people involved, more people working towards this goal, there's only so far it can go. And I want it to go beyond that. So I have
Mm.
actually, the past 2, 3 months, it's really been on my mind that come 2026, there has to be a team that is helping. Even just doing all the emails, sending out, whether it's emailing my list or whether it's reaching out to event hosts, no matter what it is, and all the social media stuff that I write. If I'm focusing on speaking, then I need somebody who is doing the practical stuff that needs doing. So that's actually been hugely on my mind the past couple of months. It's
Yeah,
coming. It's coming. It's coming.
that's really interesting. Yeah, I always feel like the shifting point always
Hmm.
comes with that first hire, and it's usually something like an EA or a VA type of thing, right? Where it changes
Hmm.
the tides. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And that's it. It's going to be a VA. Yeah. That's the first one.
Yeah, I also think too, you mentioned having the people working towards that similar goal that you got, that vision that we set out as a entrepreneur. But I also think too, it's not only like having the people, it's but also sustaining the finances to keep those people as well, and
Mhm.
that's a huge part of the puzzle as well.
It
So
really is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it'll, like you said, it'll drive it
yeah,
because you've got people dependent on you. And if you don't, if you don't, you know, reach a payday, then you can't pay the other people. That also is
yeah,
a big driving factor in terms of the pricing,
yep.
being able then to sustain it.
Because pricing low really works. Like if you're going to price very, very cheaply, right? It works really, really well. Like if you're by yourself, right? It's fine. But when you have another employee or multiple employees, right?
You
Then we have
can't.
to be more mindful of our profit margins, about the whole
Mhm.
ecosystem. Because I think something that really changed my mind about hiring too is like, especially for coaches. Some coaches, they just don't like the marketing and sales. They just like doing the role of coaching. And so it's like that's all they want to do. So it's again a symbiotic relationship. And that's where we can kind of help out with our business or our vision and all that as well. So yeah, it's just really, really interesting. Like going through this. We always think about like I think like a lot of new business owners, they're always thinking like, oh yeah, I want to do it because I want to be more free. But the older I get and the more experience I become in business, the more I realize that no, it's actually like I'm actually taking a lot more responsibility. Not because I'm forced to, like at a normal corporate job or anything like that, where your
Mhm.
boss throws a bunch of crap on your desk. It's like we choose to take care of these people around us to create this ecosystem as well. So, yeah, I think that's like really interesting.
Yeah, people say they want to set their own schedule, but the bigger your business becomes and the more you have to sustain it, you don't you don't have the same kind of free time you have if you're just a solopreneur who's just, you know, doing this in your free time. It's different.
Even if you have great leaders, there's going to be a temporary growing pain for any organization for sure. Like
Yeah.
that's what I've noticed. At least I could be wrong though. Who knows? Uh, yeah. I do want to move on to this question too. As someone who has switched multiple careers, who is a coach, who's a business owner, you probably invested into a lot of different things like coaching, training, marketing, well, not team members quite yet, but maybe in the future. There's a lot of different things that you can invest in, right?
Yes.
But this game is called overrated, underrated. And so I'm curious, what has been the most overrated business investment that you've like financially made so far? And what's the most underrated? And overrated could be like, yeah, everybody talks about it. They're like, oh my God, this is the best investment. But when you tried it, you're like, it wasn't that great, right? And the underrated one might be like, ooh, not too many people talk about this, but it's a really good best kept secret that more people should know. So kind of curious about your experience.
So I don't regret any of the training, anything I've purchased, because I've learned from everything. I truly have. Even if it didn't work out, I still learned a lot from it. But that initial affiliate marketing course
Mm,
probably, although it was a good first step, I suppose, into the world of being online, it wasn't really worth what I paid for it. Other coaching programs have been worth every penny.
mm,
And I have the paid version of ChatGPT, the paid version of Claude, the paid version of Canva. I've I've put money into some of these different things. Being part of those giveaways. If anybody's ever interested in being part of the giveaways, please just let me know because investing in that was really worth it. So there are, I bought an okay microphone, I bought an okay camera, I bought an okay light, so, ring light, and they've all been fine. You don't have to spend a fortune on those. But other stuff that's going out there with your name on it, whether it's your copy, your posts, whether it's whatever you're creating, whether it's your course, that stuff I think is really worth spending the money on,
mm,
so that when it goes out there with your name on it and your brand, it's right.
mm. Do you feel like that affiliate marketing program? So sometimes when people share their overrated or underrated like investments, right? Sometimes with the overrated one, I sometimes ask, do you feel like it was the right solution, wrong time, or maybe in this case, was it kind of like the right solution in a different multiverse?
Yeah. Where Spider-Man is, a kid. Uh, so I think at the time, it set me off. It set me going, and it wasn't the right path, but at least it was a path. And like I said, I learned from it. I learned a lot about funnels and how you set up landing pages. I learned about just the whole process of social media posting and marketing. I learned a lot from it, and part of that is stuff that I help other people with, because part of my mentorship is the social media piece and is creating a social media strategy. So, I definitely learned from it. It wasn't the place for me to stay, but it's hard to regret it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think I have any real regrets.
I
Probably
think that's
a couple posts I put up, I probably regret, but they can come down.
maybe. We all have those. Um, yeah. And I feel like that's part of life too. It's like, we don't know by doing something where it's going to lead. It's always the butterfly effect, right? Like you just don't know. And so I think sometimes like trying these things is part of our journey, and clearly you got a lot of lessons from that as well.
Yeah.
Ro, last question for you.
Okay.
How can people find you and connect with you?
The easiest way to connect with me is probably Facebook. Just find me, Rohanna Doylida. You can find me there, or at LinkedIn. Find me. Those are probably the two best places to connect with me. And there are some downloads for you if you'd like, if you're interested. Free downloads that I think they're meant to be very, very helpful. And I know people are finding them helpful. So that's a great place to start. And then if you do download the guide, then it will also take you to be able to even just set up a meeting with me, just to get to know each other. Not every meeting is about, becoming becoming part of my mentorship, but sometimes it's really just learning from each other and getting to know each other and finding ways to work together. I love finding, and connecting with new people. So I always encourage people to come and reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I think in the beginning of the podcast, or probably pre-podcast, I was telling you I wrote down your name and I couldn't read my writing. I've been taking notes the whole time. And so as I'm trying to decipher my own writing about the notes I took, some of the things that really stuck out to me during this podcast was kind of like, the twists and turns that you took from affiliate marketing to having a bakery to all these different things. I thought that was really, really interesting, and how you landed on coaching there. I also think something that I really, really took away was your story about your best friend. And I'm so grateful that you kind of shared that story with your best friend, and maybe it'll impact a lot of people in her legacy. Well, that's maybe part of her legacy too, but how that really forced you to kind of really reflect on, like, do I really want to be a solopreneur? Like, do I want to create this ecosystem or stay solopreneur? Not like one's better than the other, but it's preference. And these moments in our lives just are kind of like mirrors. And it's really interesting to see the identity shift, like you literally going in real time with your identity shifts and openly sharing your growing pains as well. So that's just my long way of saying, Ro, hey, I appreciate your work. Your work matters. And thank you for sharing your time, your stories, and your wisdom on the podcast today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
It's my pleasure.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.